Retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Steve Anderson, and here at the table with me, New York Times editorial board member, MSNBC political analyst Mara Gay. General Anderson, take me inside your thoughts at this moment. As Donald Trump in an Oval Office press avail yesterday promised that people that come out will be met with, quote, force this coming weekend.
Well, it shows that Donald Trump, Nicole, considers the military a prop. Something to politicize, something to use to achieve his objectives politically. And it just sickens me to see this happen. I mean, when you look at what's going on out there, first of all, it's illegal and been articulated much better than myself by Tim Kaine and Gavin Newsom and others. But it's also going to be ineffective because these soldiers are not trained to do this mission. It's very difficult to coordinate with all these different agencies. They are, and there's a tremendous cost associated with trying to bring this happen. And as Tim Kaine, I think, very rightfully pointed out, there is the danger of an escalation to a Kent State type moment with untrained soldiers that perhaps aren't used to dealing with this kind of thing. So, I mean, when you think about $134 million being expended for 60 days over there, think of what we can do with that money. I mean, Donald Trump already took $1 billion from military construction to use on the southern border. If you think about what is not happening in our military because he considers it to be part of his piggy bank and something that he can exploit for his political gain.
General Anderson, former senior military official, explained to me why that is such a volatile dynamic and why the comparisons to Kent State, that all of the training that goes into being a Marine is about being wired, and people are predisposed, I understand, but being wired to respond with force against a threat against your life. Just explain how combustible that is inside an ICE operation.
Well, absolutely, Nicole. Well, of course, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines are trained to fight our nation's wars. I mean, that's what they do. They're trained to deal with our adversaries, to fight and win overseas wars against foreign adversaries. So they're trained to kill. I mean, and so it's very difficult for them to say, oh, okay, not so fast. We're not going to do this in this situation. And there could be a terrible situation in which a soldier or a Marine gets confused, gets scared, gets intimidated, whatever, and makes a terrible mistake. And that would set back the military-civilian relationships perhaps 20 years. I mean, Kent State is a terrible thing. You're not old enough perhaps to remember it, but I do. And it was, it absolutely decimated our military, and it pretty much brought this country to its knees for a few days. We cannot let this happen. And unfortunately, Donald Trump is fanning the flames and making this happen. He's enabling this potentiality to happen because of his inappropriate use of the military.
What do you say to men and women of the military who are under it's insubordination? Donald Trump also has the title of commander-in-chief. What is it like right now for active duty military in our country?
Well, Tim Kaine hit it very, very well. I mean, it's a terrible morale degradation. These soldiers and Marines did not sign up to stand down civilians, in American cities. They signed up to train, to make themselves better, to grow their families, and to deal with our foreign adversaries, and we have the most lethal military in the world because of it. This is a major distraction, and, it's a tremendous morale issue to them. They don't like to do what they're being asked to do. They know that it's confusing. They're getting handed cards to say, this is your mission. It's insane. The military and the deployment of the National Guard is a last resort, not a first resort. Unfortunately, this president wants to do this. He wants to fan the flames of insurrection. And I think ultimately he's looking for an excuse to declare the Insurrection Act. And when that happens, Katie, bar the door, because we're in deep trouble if that in fact happens. And I think that's exactly where Donald Trump wants to take us.
Just play that thread forward for us, because I think there is some public disapproval of the brink that Governor Gavin Newsom talked about. The Quinnipiac poll has Donald Trump's approval rating at its lowest point, 38%.
Well, you got to remember there's an awful lot of people that love what Donald Trump is doing. OK, I mean, that's just how it is.
Sure,
I mean,
they're in the 38%, but
they are.
In terms of doing things like launching and carrying out an unpopular trade war with America's largest trading partners, in terms of reshaping America's scientific prowess by expelling foreign students, if you're at 38%, you can't do the other things on your wish list, can you?
I would hope not, but unfortunately, he's got this block, and it just seems like no matter what he does or doesn't do, they seem to ignore it or support it. I mean, he came into the office saying he was going to reduce prices for Americans. That hasn't happened. And is there an outcry against that? Probably there really isn't. I mean, we could go on and on with all the promises he's made that he hasn't kept. The fact of the matter is that when he goes into a blue state and deploys the National Guard to take out illegal immigrants, there's an awful lot of Americans, unfortunately, that are cheering on the sidelines.
Let me just keep the numbers just so we don't get psyched out about the size of things. I know Trump loves it when we do, but this is the actual size of the number of Americans who support deporting people with a job. Just 15% of our fellow Americans. So that means about 35% of Trump voters don't support that. 14% of Americans support deporting people who are parents of children that were born here. 9% support deporting people who came here as children. And only 5% of all Americans, which means 45% of Trump's own base, opposes deporting people married to a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the entire immigration issue has kind of gotten away from both parties and just America in general. I am starting to wonder how much of an issue in last year's election immigration was as simply a proxy for anger over the economy. Americans clearly are suffering, not just with inflation, but with a housing crisis. You have adult children who aren't doing as well as their parents. There's a lot of anger about the consolidation of capital, about billionaires. So you think about that kind of populism and how Donald Trump was able to channel it into an anti-immigrant rhetoric. And so I think through that lens, we did see people voting on immigration in a way. But I think the reality now of, first of all, this is terrible for the economy. So even putting aside the humanitarian aspect of this, now he said, yes, I'm going to go after people who are criminals. But he's going after wide communities here. And I think now that we're seeing that playing out, there are Americans in those communities, citizens, people across the country who are starting to have second thoughts. I mean, now that we're seeing, children being ripped from there, including people, right. So the reality is actually quite devastating. And so I do think we're starting to see public sentiment shift because this isn't just about immigration. It's also obvious, of course, that Donald Trump is using immigration as an excuse to strengthen his own powers and test the Constitution. And we see that with his deployment of the military. So you've got to have Americans out there who are thinking, well, today it's immigrants. Well, tomorrow it could be me or my kid who's out in the street protesting because they're at college, or they just feel like it's their constitutional right to do so as it is, and they're devastated by what's happening to their country. Are they going to be harmed by a member of their own military? I mean, what is happening here? So I have very mixed feelings about showing this to both of you. It is news, but it is news from the Trump administration. It's a post from the Department of Homeland Security that they put on X, advertising a tip line with a poster that reads, quote, "Help your country and yourself. Report all foreign invaders." This is your taxpayer dollars, regardless of who you voted for taxes. Your taxes are paying for this ad being disseminated on Elon Musk's platform X that says, quote, "Help your country and yourself. Report all foreign invaders." General, did Vladimir Putin write that?
He might very well have. I'll tell you one foreign invader we could deal with is Elon Musk. But having said that, I mean, it's just absurd that we would, that Americans and our strength in our democracy is our ability to take so many different cultures and so many different religions and make something great. And that's what we've done throughout our entire, diversity has been our strength. And when you look at that, it taps into the isolationist impulses of a lot of people, the inner racism and hatreds that a lot of people have, unfortunately. And so many of those people have not had the courage to speak up and to stand up for democracy and the American way of life. And unfortunately, the Republican Congress might be the greatest offender in this regard. No one in the Senate or the Congress is standing up against our dear leader when he tries to tap into these isolationist impulses and use our military to further his political means.
Retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Steve Anderson, thank you for being part of our coverage. Mara sticks around for the hour coming.